take somebody probably like, my mother and people, a lot of people just look at CBC and venture into the fifth estate and think they're getting the truth. But, they are getting a truth, but it is a very limited one. And I think the only solution is to make people more aware, is to make them more aware that there's more media outlets. And the big fight right now is like YouTube channels I've been watching over the past 3-4 weeks, and a couple of bloggers, they're getting censored now.
Yeah.
One guy, all he did was post people's shots, videos from across Canada of the protests. That's it. That's all he did, basically.
And put music on it or what?
Maybe, but here's the point.
Yeah.
That's all he was doing. He had to delete the whole thing.
Crazy.
And know what that points to? Rewriting history.
Right.
What's happened over the last 3 weeks, we've had the privilege of knowing what history is.
Right.
Probably a year from now, much of this may be gone if we're not careful.
Wow. You think
It's so easy to censor now, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And we're putting it into law now. And I don't even know. Today I can say what I'm saying. Maybe tomorrow I can't, right? Because
Well, they're
whatever.
definitely going to have to throw me in jail because I'm just putting a platform for people to say
Well,
what their opinions are.
See, that's the thing. I don't think it's really going to be that extreme. It's not about putting people in jail. It's about taking away their right to live in society.
Right. So
Right?
it's
And
just
they're
as
already
bad.
pretty good at it, right? Aren't
It's
they?
actually just as bad or worse than putting somebody in jail.
Can be, yeah. No, I don't agree with that. I'd rather be out and about surveyed than to be sitting in a cell. So, yeah. And I think that's the way, society.
Have you been coming out for a while to the gatherings here, the assemblies?
Few weeks, yeah. Yeah.
Just recently, or from?
Well, I started about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And actually, Bloor Street was blocked by semis. I actually got to shake a trucker's hand for like this, It was
That's
great.
fantastic! I remember
Yeah.
that day.
Yeah.
There was tons of people. There was such a great atmosphere. The feeling in the air was like
Yeah.
hopeful.
Well, I think, and from what I've heard about Ottawa, it's the closest we ever got to Ottawa was
Yeah.
that weekend.
Yeah, I was in Ottawa. I was only there for one weekend. But it was so unbelievably crowded on Wellington Street. It took half an hour to walk a block, and everybody was, getting along fine, right?
Yeah,
people
right,
were taking,
yeah.
it
Well, look
was
at it.
It's insane what they're saying about there's racists and Nazis and homophobes and
that's, yeah.
Dadaphobes. What do you think about all this identity politics that they're doing? I mean, what's the point?
I
What's
think
the purpose of it?
I think it's been overdone now, right? Like, you think you got what you wanted. And the thing is, the truckers weren't 100% right either. They were new at this.
Yeah.
Coming into town in 18-wheelers with "fuck Trudeau" and little mustaches making them look like Hitler, that should not have happened, really.
Well-
I think that is...
People are frustrated.
That's what they're showing, their frustration.
know
And
what?
that
That's nice.
gave Trudeau the ammunition to say what he said. Well, you call me Hitler, look at those swastikas.
I don't know. They're doing it first, but they've been doing it first for always.
I'm just
that's
trying
their
to,
go-to thing.
yeah.
I agree with you.
I'm just
I
trying to
agree
be the
with you.
devil's advocate for the truckers,
No,
right?
I do agree with you. I mean, I think they should leave the profanity and everything out of it. But people are. Yesterday, I was on a video call, and there are separatist movement on the East Coast and the West Coast now. There are provinces that people are just fed up with the federal government. They just are sick of it. They just
Yeah.
want to leave.
Yeah.
They want to leave Canada. Seriously.
Well, and they have good reason to. Especially if they remember what Canada was like, Like, especially in my lifetime, when I go back, like when I was my son's age, in my 20s,
Yeah.
we had a shitload of freedom back then,
Oh yeah, I was born in '68, so I remember what it was like. Your parents would kick you out of the house, and you'd go and play for hours and hours.
Exactly, yeah. The only thing was be home in time for supper. You're being shit.
And I got shit a few times for coming
Yeah,
home
exactly. Yeah, my son grew up in his bedroom. Bedroom was a punishment.
late. yeah.
right? Of which I could escape through the window, right? So, times are very different, just for childhood, for,
I mean, the thing that has surprised me is that how quickly they were able to do this in just 2 years, right? Like they've created an army of submissive people that will just do whatever they're told.
Yeah. Well, why did the people do as they were told? Why? Why did they?
Mass formation psychosis is one possible explanation.
Yeah. That's one. Didn't get me, though. You see, because I knew I would never get COVID. I've been spending my whole life staying out of the medical system. I eat healthy, I exercise, and I do not get too much stress. All these things that are great for your immune system that nobody's telling all these people about.
Well,
And see, we do need a reset, but we need a reset of people's health too.
oh, for sure.
Right,
And
the
I
whole
think
diabetes.
A lot of that has to do with fear, right? That people are so fearful and anxious all the time.
Yeah, well, they're stressed out, and that's the first thing that kicks off your immune system. When you're worried, your immune system doesn't have to be active. And that's a good thing if it's, like you're running away from something, but not on a daily basis. See?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if one thing that's been really good for me over this period is I knew a bit about my immune system, but now I know a whole lot about it.
It's been amazing for me too, because I've had the opportunity to like videotape people like Byron Bridle and even the doctors that were presenting in Ottawa, like a lot of very knowledgeable people. So I've learned a lot myself, but it's I wonder how many people are going to sit through and watch all of that and learn all of that information. They're just not that many people. Just don't seem to have the time for it.
Exactly, and somebody I just recently emailed for the first time in a year emailed back to me, says, I don't like the look, it's just too bleak. See, and I feel the opposite. Yeah, if you only look at mainstream media, it does look pretty bleak.
For sure.
But if you spread out and spend some time with independent YouTubers,
Right.
and that's closing down, so I guess we're going to have to be moving to websites now, right? Like
Losing
Rumble.
Perspective. Actually, if you look at the long span of history, we've had these contractions of freedom and expansions of freedom. I think we're going to have a good future. I'm not worried about that. I am optimistic. I don't know how long it will take. That's the problem, and I don't want to see it keep going in the wrong direction. That's the whole point.
Well, yeah.
Of,
And I think you hit the nail on the head. Uncertainty. As humans, we don't like uncertainty.
no.
That's why death is so scary, right? It's the final uncertainty.
Well, there's a lot of there's very few people that come to peace with it and don't worry about it. Right?
Yeah.
It's not. It's going to happen. It's going to happen, right? It's not something you can
Yeah.
have direct control over.
Yeah. Well, I have a real artistic side to myself, right? And I'm a teacher, and I'm curious, you see. And I'd like to fall 100% on the side of this, but I also want, hold a bit back, just to, what do you call it? Critical thinking. All right, I guess that's, this is a good exercise in critical thinking.
Here's a critical thought for you. It appears now that they're saying that it's a possibility that there are about 3% of the people die from the injections, and that's like way higher than the number of people that actually die from COVID.
I'm glad that type of information's coming out. Yeah. And I'm not at all surprised. I mean, and
I am. I can't. And this is the first time anything like this has ever happened.
yes, it is. But I just thought it was too rushed, Like, I'm waiting for 7 years, then maybe I'll try it. Like the other vaccines I have in my body. But what, 18 months later?
Well, this is the whole point what we're talking about is informed consent. And it's impossible to have informed consent if there's no long-term safety history. So all of those people that took the injections, they didn't have informed consent.
No, and look what's happened. They still have to wear masks. They still have to do all the stuff people that aren't vaccinated have to do. So,
and they still get COVID.
And they still get COVID, yeah. So,
What's your feeling? Like, why do you think there's still so many people wearing masks and even out and walking around in public, they're still wearing masks?
For safety. They believe it's safe. And I just asked one of my Chinese students yesterday, what do you think about lifting the passport? Not a good idea, she said. It's not going to be safe now. They should have kept it longer. So I don't know how many people she represents, but probably a lot of people that are out masked up are thinking pretty similar.
I got COVID. I think it was the Omicron. They had bad symptoms for about 2 or 3 days, and then it was a sinus infection, like a cold. It went away.
Yeah.
It was
yeah,
just, I've had many worse flus than COVID in my lifetime.
Yeah. And like I say, I never got it.
It's super. It's right now. Even if you did catch it, it's a mild cold. It's like a flu. Like 99% of people will be.
But even fine. When it's been a long time since I've been sick.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I used to live in China, and I did get respiratory problems in China.
Wow.
But when I'm in Canada, I just don't get. Yeah, I think so. Pollution, and maybe we go out for dinner like with 10, 12 people, and you're all eating off the same plate.
Right.
That's just the way they do things. So.
They're also in close contact with animals a lot more than people typically in the Western countries.
I think I'm not.
See,
I was
in the city, but out in the countryside.
Yeah, exactly. Because my experience in China was kind of like middle class, and I'm a teacher teaching richer kids English. So yeah, I didn't get much of a view of the rural side.
Well, teaching English, you would have learned a lot about English history, right? I mean, a lot of the rights and freedoms came from countries like England and from the Western world, right?
Well, here's the thing. In October, I jetted over to London. I'm a UK citizen as well. Stayed for 6 weeks. Last October, in people's mind, it was over. It wasn't making the news.
Right.
Gas, the supply chain was a problem. But since October, it hasn't been in their minds. Even like the public transport, it was mandatory, but less than half of the people had a mask on. It was just like they never had a vaccine passport, right? And that just took a couple of huge demonstrations walking through the streets of London for Boris to say, yeah, it's not 100%, so we won't have it. Yeah.
That's strange that different parts of the world would have woken up to what's going on at different times. I guess that's understandable, but it seems like we're always following behind. We don't have any leadership here in this country. Like, there's just nobody who's willing to stick their neck out and say, no, this is too much.
In politics, I think you're right. I think if the best we have is the Conservatives, it's not happening. It's just.
I think they're both bad. The whole system is dysfunctional, right? We've kind of collapsed. Like it's just we're becoming sort of a corporate elite state where the political class just does what they do. They pay no attention to anybody else.
Pretty much, and and that's pretty much what happens in China. And the people in China are very happy. When you ask people in China, what do you think of social credit system? Yeah, it's good.
They're afraid to say anything, right? They're
pretty
not,
much, yeah.
I mean, to say anything. If you say anything against the state at all, they can throw you in jail.
Yeah, and I have been here in Canada now 10 years. I still don't talk against Xi Jinping. And they have a totally different history than us. The Korean War, the Vietnam War, that's all different to them than what we learned. Right?
Well, what did they learn? They learned the opposite of whatever we are teaching, right?
We were pretty much.
Imperialists that came in and destroyed China and kill people and slaughter them and steal their money.
But that's kind of the gist of it, yeah.
What do you think of all this woke culture that's happened in the past few years? It's like an insanity. It's like a religion that it's become.
Yeah, I don't even know much about it, actually, so I can't really comment on it.
They just sort of have beliefs that are not based in any kind of reality or fact or reason. It's just sort of we believe it because we believe it. Right?
But didn't it just start from waking up to racism and not being racist? And then something happened from there that I'm not sure about.
Let's talk about racism, because it's strange, right? I mean, we've had, definitely there's been racism. There's no question about that. I mean, we still have racism in our laws, right? We have the Indian Act, which treats them as a different race of people, right? They don't have the same rights and freedoms the Native people, right? It's absurd. We should all be under one law.
Yeah, we should really learn from our past mistakes, like the reservations, like the Japanese-Italian internment. We shouldn't be detaining Russians in Yellowknife.
I didn't know about
Yes.
that.
Oh yeah, they detained a plane in Yellowknife because there were Russians on board. Russians, they didn't know if they were civilians or who they were, but they detained it. And also the NHL has come out and said, we don't think we'll be drafting from the Russian teenagers.
It's ridiculous.
From-
How are
yeah.
they punishing the people for the offenses of the state?
Yeah, well,
This is collectivism. This is the flaw that they have, right? They all put people and lump them in one group and don't treat them as
yeah,
individuals.
yeah. Well, the thing is, we could probably all agree that they're idiots. But here it is. We're doing what these idiots are telling us to do, to the point that we'll cover up our faces. We'll stay home because the idiots are telling us to do that. Kind of hits my self-respect,
But it's comical in a tragic sort of way. It's insane that this has happened, right? It's like a mass mental.
Well, it's sad that it's happened, but I've been reading about this all my life, and about East Berlin, or East Europe, and somewhere in Africa, and
Now it's happening here.
yeah, I mean, few years ago, this guy asked me on Facebook, "What do you like about Canada?" And in one line, I said, "I like the fact that I can leave it whenever I want, and I can come back whenever I want." That was my statement about it.
And that changed, though. I couldn't leave. I didn't
Yeah.
get the injections.
Yeah, so we definitely need to get back to that. Yesterday, I would say. What do I think about the mandates? Yesterday, please.
Tell us
Sometime.
more about the experience in the UK. You said that things were more open. They kind of put it behind them back last October.
It seemed that way to me. Yeah, I get off at Heathrow and I walk in and I see some people got masks, some don't have masks, and I go to the security guard who doesn't have a mask and I say, "Is it okay not to wear a mask?" He goes, "Oh no, you have to wear a mask." So, and I kind of felt like if I take this off, I'll be naked, Like I've been wearing it for so long in enclosed buildings.
Right, I know.
But I very quickly, like within 2 days, I never owned a mask, right?
Well, that's the problem, that the people, again, are believing in things that it's impossible, right? I mean, it's like trying to keep a mosquito from flying through this fence.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
That's a good.
It's
Yeah,
not going to happen.
yeah, yeah.
The virus particles are like a mosquito compared to the mask.
I know. Well, I read to see the virus, you have to have an electron microscope, but to see the holes in a mask, you need a microscope.
Right.
So, yeah. But, and yet, for 2 years, we let these idiots tell us what to do. Shame on us. Yeah. It's about time we woke up. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. And I think the time's here. And I feel like I'm part of it, so, Because I certainly want to be on the winning side of this thing, I'd hate to be on the losing side.
I think that's why people are holding on to these
Yeah.
mask police, right? They're getting actually bitter because it's been announced that the mask mandate's ending. There's people that don't like this, right? They're really upset about it.
Well, yeah, one thing that upsets me about it is now it's up to the business to decide. So a business can take away my Charter of Rights now? Like, it was bad enough when the government could do it, but now you're letting private business take them away from me? You must have thought that up, right? It's another idiotic thing I have to obey.
That's true. All right. Any other last thoughts? Anything you want to say? Like, what's your message to the people?
Oh, keep up the peaceful protests. Yeah, I think they're working well. They ebb and they flow, but as long as the ebb and flow keeps going, we'll have ebb and flow, So, I mean, I try to be as optimistic as possible that the end result, the end game, will be something that really is beneficial for everyone. Well,
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.